Welcome back to Factorio MSX Gigabase. We are well into our SpaceX challenge. We've completed phase 1 and phase 2. We're into phase 3. We've done 3 of the 10 components. Obviously the last component is science dependent and we are still quite a long way away from that, given that all of them are 16 million at this point. Well, red and green parts are, these are 8 million and 16 million red and green, 8 million blue, and 16 million red, green, 8 million blue, purple, yellow, and of course the space science for the final component. And they are also very ludicrously priced in this challenge. Now, last episode, I think I was discussing the whole idea of smelter stack revamps. And to that end I actually have a blueprint which as you can see is incredibly condensed. We will definitely be rolling this out because it will save bot travel rather, not so much bot speed but bot travel to and from their charging points and pickup and delivery destination, so that part is worthwhile. Now, I did allude to the whole concept of clocking, or supposed advanced techniques with smelting, and I ended up testing it offline and creating a video on these various in particular the one technique of clocking your smelters. And I haven't included that as part of this series because, well, A, it was done in a test system. Some of these have a monstrously large supply of iron ore. We're not doing enough in terms of the our demand at the moment to reduce this where we need it to go. So it's not necessarily the best time to actually be changing the smelter stacks, because I certainly don't want to be moving 300,000 ore or plate via my personal bots. That's excessive. So it certainly was interesting though that the whole clocking thing that some people are touting as the next greatest thing to come to UPS starved factories is in fact a negative on your UPS and will result in degraded performance, not improved performance. That was my finding, and so I certainly will not be using that anywhere in my factory. And in fact I would caution you about believing any combinator based system for improving performance. It's not really what they're intended for, and the likelihood is that they don't actually do that. It's much more likely that they will cost performance than that they will actually give you performance. So there you go, there's one for keeping it simple. Time-honoured tradition that still rules the roost even in this combinator age. So yes, these are far too large for me to want to change at the moment. So let's have a look at where we're up to. We have 50 of the fuel cells to build. We've built 13, as you can see there's 13 in the cargo there. We are currently running at a very meagre 276,000 plates per minute. We're not even using that though, so we're slowly stocking up. We are doing more or less our 220 speed modules per minute, because we must have gotten behind with them. I may have been able to tweak this a little bit to improve it prior to some of the changes that I intend to do, but there's obviously a bigger bug there, in regards to my whole system of keeping track of what the subscribers are and what the sort of outstanding requests are. So I don't see any reason why I would stop from moving ahead with replacing the whole subscriber mechanism with its own unique train stop and using Factorio's own built-in mechanisms for finding the available subscribers, rather than kind of maintaining a table separately at the cost overhead that it has. So that's the one thing, and that's what that's what this guy is for, the subscriber train stop, to replace this guy, which is probably not the best thought out originally, so having a separate train stop will be a lot better. And yeah, so that's sort of where we're at. I wonder how these guys are going. 30k, it's still too much for me to want to move manually. I haven't actually done stats on how much squishing them into sort of well, this stack isn't actually done the same way exactly, but as you can see, we're basically cutting out 2 columns from either side and getting that much closer to the furthest carriage in terms of travel time. We could even look at a bit of an arc if we really wanted to, but I mean, ideally I'd kind of like to balance the carriages with the location of the smeltering, and see if that actually does away with this whole favoritism to sort of a hemisphere that does occur to some degree. I mean, when you are producing just enough, then obviously all of the smelters are called on anyway, so it's not so much of an issue. And yes, this design does sometimes take a while to fill in here, so we are undershooting copper a little bit, which may be more of an issue when we get to the next science. What else? What else? Well, I mean, if we're not going to do that change, there really isn't that much more to do other than this one I keep forgetting about. So it's full. What we should actually do is, at the Roboport iron, rather than just full inventory, there should also be inactivity 5 seconds, let it move on. Then I won't have to keep touching it. All I need to do is come over here and check how the iron is doing. Now we want to do this with the steel and the red circuits as well. So I guess I'll need to go back there, because yeah, this is actually getting worse at this point. We might have to wait to the next component that might be a bit hungrier. Take our lives into our hands as we cross there. And we'll head back to the SpaceX components area, where we will try and recycle some more of the excess product that we've stored up, so that we can actually pull some of this out. But it's not going to save that much pulling all this out, but it's a start, and we can probably try and pull this lot out as well. One thing we haven't looked at for a while is our power. It's actually fairly quiet at the moment, because obviously we don't have everything running when we're only doing sort of sub 300k iron plates and so on. Looks like we're slowly in the transition phase between accumulators and our solar panels. But we are at our destination, so let's get on with this job of clearing out the stuff that we don't need. As we go past here, we can have a quick squiz. 36. So we've done 14 of our 50. Doesn't look that likely that we'll be launching more this episode. That's okay. So we need steel. If I change these to requester chests. Whoops, that is not what I wanted to do. I do not want to be requesting steel. Let's just get rid of that. Get rid of the steel, get rid of the reds before I do that again. Do we have a train on the way? That's annoying. Let's change all of these around. How did that pick up a red circuit? Didn't just pick up one, it picked up 12 in fact. Never mind. At least this way, when this steel train gets here, it... Oh dear. When the steel train gets here, it won't be able to drop anything off, because all of these are facing the other direction. Now, let's put in a simple request here, maybe say 200. I'm guessing that this train is full anyway, so it's a waste of time trying to use it for any purpose. But what we can do is go, well, where are we actually using steel from at the moment? Big Bro steel is full, so it's probably not Big Bro, but maybe we could choose one of these guys and add in, what's the name of this steel? Roboport steel. Alright. Roboport steel it is then. Let's grab one of these guys and add in, go to Roboport steel. Roboport steel until inventory full or inactivity. I'll put that right up the top. Alright. That will take a while. Now, the red circuits we need to do the same sort of thing with. If I use the shift, I don't risk it going over there, but that one was empty, so I didn't need to. Whoops, that's what I was talking about. So here I'll use shift with all of them, and they all rotate in the other direction, and there's no risk of picking out of that box. And here as well. And finally, there you go. Now if we make these requester chests, assuming we have enough, I think I will have, but only just. And they can request, yeah, 200. Just see how that goes. Now the biggest problem is that these are requester chests and we need to turn them into supply chests. And I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the cogs here. How many have we got? 200. 4,500 in storage. Right. I do not know. And let's get a red train on the way. This thing is continuing fairly well. 34, we now have 16 built. It's actually making fairly good progress. What I should probably do is move this so that I can increase, like move all three of these, so that I can actually increase the, probably fit there, right? 1, 2, 3. I can then increase the number of inserters for fuel, and it would probably speed it up somewhat. But let's get a red train, probably from this stack, like this guy for example. If you could, what's it called? Is it Roboport Red or something? Roboport RC. So if you, when you're doing your trips, could go to Roboport RC, Roboport RC until inventory full, or inactivity 5 seconds. We'll put that up to the, whoops, put that up to the top. That should clear this area. Now this one, I guess we probably have the same sort of deal, but I will worry about that at a future time. So what have we got here? 50 in there. We have completed 16. There is 34 left. I want to make a blueprint. I have far too many blueprints. I can always get that one again. Oops. Yeah, I don't need that just now. Or that. Or that. Or really any of these things. I can remake them when I need them. There, now we've got a little bit of room, so I'll use this to copy this construct. My bots are probably off, so let's put them back in. We don't actually need the protection fields or the thrusters anymore. And we have already done 16, so we can put a -16 fuel cell in here as well. -16. So that is 34. This one is 34. Good. We can rip this out. And we have a red going from there to there. And this one comes to here. So it should be providing a red from there to there, I think. 34, what's this up to? 17, 33, so it is working very good. Okay, now the formula for these guys is we need an awful lot of rocket fuel and only 1600 of other things, so what we are going to do is increase the rocket fuel in this manner. and we will link it up, copy the condition, and that should result in the rocket fuel part of it being done a bit faster, and hopefully the whole process happening a little bit faster. It'd be nice to launch these things. How is our production anemic? I mean, green circuit isn't bad, but these other two are very flat and low. Even plastic, all things considered, isn't actually that high. So yeah, we definitely needed to accelerate this guy. Seems to be going up a little bit faster now in terms of the rocket fuel count. 2.5 per minute. We can do quite a bit better than that, so I am not concerned about this at this point. And 33. Let's just have a look at not that one so much, but this one. It might be starting to drop, possibly. That would certainly be nice if this sort of buffered amount drops, because that would make it more likely that I can actually do something about it. This one up here still has 45,000. I might even have to cut the supply of iron to it. In fact, that's not a bad idea. So what I can do is cut the iron ore that goes into it, and hope for the best. Especially since we're not producing that much iron. But I mean, look at all this that we've got down here. We've got one of those magical little O's that keep causing issues. Okay, O, you're going anyway? Awesome. So maybe my slight adjustments there have actually paid some dividends. Anyway, let's head back to #steel. And from there, we should be able to pop up here, snip these connections. That will drain new ore coming in. As the iron plates get used, it will drain what's in here, and we can use this to replace. And as everything gets drained down, we can then start this up again. I mean, if we do sort of 3 at a time, perhaps, so maybe snip this line. These ones will drain off, we can refill them, then snip, repair it, snip the top line, something like that. It is a bit of a hassle to change these things when you've got a factory that is in the process of doing stuff, but the thing you've got to understand with Factorio is there seems to always be ways you can improve what you're doing, and it's always, especially once you start pushing the limits, it's always worth taking on board those improvements. So that is what we are doing. As you become aware of them, just don't bring the false improvements on board. We don't need false improvements. And yes, a path up here would probably have been useful, but I never thought of it in time, so it didn't happen. Whoops, that is probably bad timing. You can go. As soon as you have gone, we will snip this. There. That's sufficient. Now, we need to see these basically clear out. We will keep an eye on over here to see if or how the progress is going. 18, and that has correct count, so that's good. What about over here? We still have a large amount of iron in some of these chests. I don't know if we've had a visit from trains to any of these other stops recently, but it does look like an iron train is on the way. Roboport. Wow, why are all of these guys going to Roboport Iron? It's a little bit confusing. But over here, by the iron stack, we are actually exhausting the supply of ore. So that is wonderful. Because I'm kind of not looking forward to this whole process all that much. It's a little bit tedious just redoing stacks all the time, and I have done that a few times at this point. Do I really only have 50 bots right now? That is not going to be enough. Let's make sure that we have more bots than that. Since we have a supply chest down here, while we bleed off the plates in those libraries, at least, you know, there is a little bit of turnover going through iron. So this one is out of excess plates. 1.4. That one actually is a candidate for action very, very soon. It looks like we actually have some robots on here, so we could just grab them. Doing an autosave. $179, that one's definitely a long way off. 31,000, I'm just looking at the iron plates. I should really look also at the iron ore. This one is currently reading negative, so yeah, it is our best candidate. Alright then. Get a few more of those guys down. Let us rip out all of this. I don't like that some of it's being ripped up to there. That's not quite what I had in mind. But if those construction robots are in range to do that, perhaps they're in range to help down here as well. So let's proceed with ripping this bit as well. Now it'll be interesting to see what impact this has. We're obviously gone too far, but we were getting up to about 41. So I am not sure whether it will necessarily be noticeable in terms of you know, the UPS just quite as directly as perhaps we'd like. But yeah, that is That is the equivalent of what we had before, just under a compressed build, and look how much closer everything is to the where the train is. So yeah, that's why we did it, of course. We have no power, apparently. Ah, yes, I did forget that we were swapping everything over to medium poles. So that is kind of an issue. So best that it's only one stack that we have done this to so far, so that we can actually get a 13k. We might have to put up with that, so that we can get, in fact a train has pulled in, so that's good, so that we can get some more medium poles. Do I have any on me in here? I don't think 10 is going to cut it especially, so we will have to run down and get some more. We need 127 in total in that build. We probably we may have had a few, but let's just assume that we need sort of 127. So 6 times 127 is roughly sort of 780, if you consider it to be about 130. So let's order in 780 small poles. That is on, is it? Very interesting. Alright. That would appear to be working. So we can go and observe our supply train. I don't think we'll have too much trouble picking up that. In fact, it's already oversupplied it. So whatever the delay is here, should be through that very shortly. It should be on its way. And with a bit of luck, by the end of this episode, we can have a completely revamped stack. Let's see how this is going. We have 29 to go. We've got 21 on the train. It's certainly moving along a little bit faster, I think. It does appear now that fuel is actually a hold-up. We can produce at over 4 a minute, so it shouldn't be that big a hold-up. Wonder about that fuel. I also wonder about our train. It's on its way. Not too far off. Let me grab a sip of my wine. And this is continuing to drop, actually. So yeah, we're still doing our 220 modules, but obviously you don't actually need that much iron for it. So we need sort of, let's make that sort of 400, whatever. That's what we've ordered now. Okay. Back to action. Now, I could put my faster legs on. Maybe it's a good idea. It's not really that long a run though. Is it? Maybe it is. But yeah, it looks kind of, it doesn't look like it does the same thing, that little patch there, but rest assured it does. It's exactly as many smelters, just the excess space removed, cutting down on bot travel somewhat. So here we go. And we are still missing power. Is it actually this pole here that we have an issue with? You know, I think that it is. How's this one? It does not appear to have any tall poles. We'll end up with a lot of substations after this exercise, because we're changing the principal power source from substations to medium poles, which normally I'd actually advise against, because the electrical network works like everything else in Factorio, and the more iterations of something that you need, the you know, the bigger the cost it is. So creating a bunch of electrical wiring just because, you know, oh, it's expensive to use substations. Well, if you can get away with sort of 1/5 the number of them, it's not actually that expensive after all. But in this build we don't have enough room, so we have to use the smaller poles, and so we end up using more of them, but that's okay. There we go. So that one should now be operational. Okay, aside from here, that doesn't work. There. You're good to go. Now, we may as well do this one now. Should be able to do all of this without necessarily getting into position. And again, it's basically the same deal. We want to put that one back in. And how's the bottom one going? I suspect it's probably pretty good as well. It still has 109,000. That's not quite what we wanted to see. In spite of all of our batteries and fusion reactors, we might just need to do that. And the bottom part. Alright. So what I really need is a train to come down here. Or what I need is the driving skills to force a train down there. Let me see if this is possible. Normally when I try these things, I blow trains up. So if I was to drive up this way and then come back down this way, that should work. It should be kind of against the direction principles that we want to hit. That's not a good sign. Is there something I can do about that? Yes, there is, but it's not pretty. We'll probably end up having to do that everywhere, unfortunately. But never mind. And these three here. A little bit inefficient with the electrical network, unfortunately. 67,000. That's actually not going to help us that much. It looks like it's feeding anyway by itself, so that should take another... What do these things carry? It's 16,000 ore, maybe it's 32,000 plate. Missed a couple more. Yeah, 32,000 plate for sure. Now, I don't actually know that I need roboports all the way out here, but we'll use them anyway. 42,000, so it's certainly dropping. Perhaps one or two more trains and we should be in a good position to finish this off. Let's have a quick look how our 26, so 24 on board. We're very close to halfway. It does look like rocket fuel is struggling a bit. I wonder why that is actually. It should be doing a little bit better than that. That's plastic. No rocket fuel there. Down here, there's no rocket fuel. There is an O. Alright, so how are we doing here? 31,000. And this is a new train. So it should be able to fill this one, and there'll still be some thousands, so it's really the train after that one that we're after. Not that one per se, and look what happens when we close off half of the demand. It starts blocking up everywhere. 390,000 there. Only 57,000 in that one, so that will have to go completely soon. we are still using almost half a microsecond in the update on the circuit network, so if we get rid of all of this as well, that should help a little bit. How are you doing? 27,000. Not too far off. The pattern when you are actually draining these things starting to get a little bit weird, but there you go. So a bit of luck, this one will come in here as well. I think I turn them off if no, it's decided to go up. So is that one. It's open. That's off though. Oh, because it's got a train sitting there that can't move, that's the reason. With a bit of luck we'll get one that comes into the inner side. Yes! This one looks like it's going to be it. So as soon as this has drained the remainder of the storage, which really isn't taking very long at all, there we go. So let's complete this exercise. There, and there. And while it's doing that, we can place this blueprint for it to replace. Ooh, I don't want to auto trash these guys. That's actually not being helpful. Maybe a little bit of speed up though would help. We should have enough medium poles to complete the exercise. That bit up there, let's make sure this bit's done as well. Poor little bots wanting to go on Smoko. Look at this crowd. Ridiculous. So, I think we're just about done there. Oh, we somehow have come up short on the prod modules. Alright, we'll sort that out, but meanwhile let us sort out the power to these things that have become a little bit depowered. And all of these guys. bit of luck, that is everything. So we can resume our flow of ore, and well, let's get our speed guys back in place. There we go, that's a lot better. It's going to be very hard to tell how much difference that has made, but it certainly has compressed the bot travel time. It looks like there's a couple of things that are actually missing there still. Once we have restored this, we'll quickly go and check what that is. They should make up their mind to come down here very quickly. Right, what are we missing? I cannot tell. It could be prod modules. It looks like it's actually stack inserters. Well, that should have been the same number of stack inserters that we had before. I don't think 4 is going to make much difference. But guys, I think we have probably we've done all we can for this episode. You can see how much tighter this is. Hopefully it works a little bit more efficiently. We will have to pick this up next time. Thanks very much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye for now.